Ladies and gentlemen, the sea levels have been rising and they feed right into the lakes and the rivers in the country. And they are at record level highs. And it's definitely making an impact, especially in the Midwest and the South, where flooding has been very prevalent in 2019. And they're anticipating that this is only going to get worse. And it will. As you know, we had record breaking snow and record breaking rain for the season, starting way back in the winter. And then all of that high amount of snow fed into the Mississippi River, and the rain just never seemed to stop coming in certain areas. It just came and came, and it would be several inches of rain in a short period of time. Well, they are still feeling the effects of this, even in August. I'm going to go ahead and play this audio from NPR. This is August 14th, 2019. Wet, wild, and high. Lakes and rivers wreak havoc across Midwest South.
Many Americans have seen their communities devastated by floods this year. Some regions have seen record amounts of rain since the early spring. The Mississippi River and tributaries spent months above flood stage, while all of the Great Lakes are nearly at or above historic heights. And today we're beginning a 4-part series looking at the cost and the impact of all of that water. Here's NPR's Cheryl Corley in Chicago.
I'm standing at Juneway Terrace Beach, a small beach right next to an apartment building on Chicago's far north side. The waves are calm today, but the beach has been completely submerged by water, and the sidewalk here smashed into pieces, and there are barriers around a huge sinkhole.
To me, it's a crisis.
Jenny Lerner is an artist who lives in an apartment adjacent to this beach. She says the steel girders and rocks buttressing the building just aren't enough.
The waves hit my kitchen window and my dining room window. Extremely powerful waves, and they have no place to go if they don't have a barrier. It's not just a crisis for me personally, it's a crisis for the whole city.
6 years ago, it was record low water levels in the Great Lakes worrying people. Now, the opposite is true. Hydrology expert Keith Kompoltowitz is with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which measures rivers and lakes. Data shows for several years now the Great Lakes have been on the rise, especially in recent months.
The months of April and May, we had extremely wet weather across the Great Lakes Basin, and that caused the lakes to rise very quickly this spring and now brought us to where we are, either setting records or approaching records depending on the lake.
In Duluth, Minnesota, crews are at work rebuilding the lake walk at the edge of Lake Superior. Project supervisor Mike LeBeau says in just 1 year, 3 major storms with waves as high as 25 feet caused about $25 million in damage. LeBeau says the latest storm last year took away acres of land.
It undermined the boardwalk there. It undermined the buried electrical wiring for the lights. It moved a lot of material, including some very large rocks, just back out into the lake. So it's been hard for the city to catch its breath, frankly.
And now it's not just the lakes. The Mississippi River has had a record high water season for months now. The river and its tributaries have flooded millions of acres of farmland, damaged roads, levees, slowed commercial river traffic, and affected downstream fisheries. Paul Osmond with the Illinois Office of Water Resources says some of the greatest damage, though, often occurs in neighborhoods far from a river or lake because older communities sometimes don't have the capacity to handle intense rainfall.
And it will deluge an old, archaic stormwater or drainage system, and basements fill up, and houses that are nowhere near the floodplain suddenly find themselves underwater.
Today, 8-foot waves are crashing over the bike path at Chicago's lakefront, drenching cyclists and joggers. Joe Brumeyer heads the Alliance for the Great Lakes and says it's typical for water levels to fluctuate, but this extended rise is unusual. He says intense storms lead to more pollution running off into the lakes.
In western Lake Erie, for example, you're seeing massive blooms of algae that are sometimes toxic to people and pets that are being caused by this concentration of agriculture fertilizer washing off into Lake Erie.
And the runoff from city streets causes pollution problems too. A forecast from the Army Corps of Engineers shows the lakes should begin their seasonal decline in the next several weeks, but fall is a very active storm season, and with strong storms churning up lake and river waters, floods, coastal erosion, and many problems that come with high water are likely to persist. Cheryl Corley, NPR News, Chicago.
Many Americans.
All right, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, that is very true. In fact, there was a story that just came out a few days ago. I didn't do the story. And this woman took her dogs to a lake and threw them all in to the water, and the water had toxic algae in it. All three puppies died. I don't know what she did that for anyway, but it just go to show you that these things are happening and people are just not paying attention, and they're getting into water and getting flesh eating bacteria. This water is not only, and this picture is Minnesota, by the way. The water is not only high, and like they said, in many cases, it has toxic algae and all kinds of bacteria in the water. And this is why people keep getting the flesh eating diseases, the flesh eating viruses and bacteria. And nobody is paying attention to what's going on with the water. The water is going through a lot of changes right now. It really is. Things you used to be able to do without even thinking, you can't do that no more. You can no longer do that, especially if you live near these areas. So, ladies and gentlemen, April and May were extremely wet months in the Midwest. And this is why so many farmers were never able to get their crops into the ground at all, because when they looked out at their land, it was a big lake. Or the ground was so waterlogged from excessive rain, they couldn't plant anything. Nothing would grow in a ground like that. So everything right now, and including the sea levels, are very high. I've seen the sea levels rise, but I think this is probably the worst year I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a year as bad as I have. So they're saying in early August there were 1 to 6 inches above the monthly August record for those waterways, while Lake Michigan and Huron were just 2 inches shy of their water record level for the month. So, we know these things rise and they fall. That's the norm. But it just seems like since it has risen, starting back in the winter, it has not gone down yet. And we're already in August, and the sea levels have not dropped at all. So, and I'm glad they were talking about the algae and how, all the algae blooms and everything, which are toxic for people and pets. But unfortunately, there are so many people still getting in the water. So in western Lake Erie, for example, you're seeing massive blooms of algae that are sometimes toxic to people and pets, that are being caused by this concentration of agricultural fertilizer washing off into Lake Erie. Wow. So runoff from city streets cause pollution problems too. So they're just not having a good time at all as far as the water is concerned. And this is Chicago. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely see it in the pictures. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. If nothing else, this has been a very interesting year. Definitely different from 2018. And I think we still got some more wild weather ahead. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.